Welcome everybody, it's Rich here with another fast and fun video. And in this video I'm taking a look back at the last 12 months because it was almost exactly this time last year that I bought my 4x4 replacement and bought my 2005 Mitsubishi Shogun Sport. And in this video we're going to take a quick look at the ups and downs of owning this 15-year-old, not so fast and not so fun, but equally important, Shogun Sport. So, where do I start? Well, to start, I was going to wash the car, and like I do for most of my videos, get the cars looking really nice for the videos, and then I didn't, and I didn't for a main reason, and that's because this is the workhorse of the family. This is the go-to for any utility job, dogs, horses, rubbish, towing, wood, all jobs that the Shogun's done quite extensively through the last 12 months. So, and I thought it probably gets washed once every 3 months perhaps, and it is used a little bit and it is abused a little bit, certainly compared to my 5 sports cars, very much so. So I thought, do you know what, for this video I'm not going to clean it, I'm not going to wash it. I think you as viewers want to see the way these cars are used, and in truth most Shogun Sports that I see on the road are in a similar condition to this. So this is it, this is the condition that I drive the car in. And when you're taking dogs and when you're towing and you've got hay bales in the back and you've got dog food, or you've got trees in there and branches and rubbish, and we've had all sorts, and the back seats spend more time down than they do up, and that's what these cars are great. And but I also want to be really clear that Shogun Sports have got some acquired taste. They have got some quite annoying features and bad features, and I wanted to take you through these in this video to make sure the potential owners are aware of what these cars are good at and what they're not so good at. Just let me adjust that as I go down this really bumpy road, so forgive the bouncy nature of the video because I'm going down this gravel road now, which I have to say this car has lived a pretty tough life. It's not just on the tarmac, it spends quite a bit of time on forest tracks and in the fields. And if we look back at the last 12 months, what it's been up to, well, within that first month we had a long 1,000-mile round trip to the Isle of Mull, which was clearly spent many hours on motorways at 65-70 miles an hour. And there's a video up there, I'll post you that link to that video. That was the first fault that I had with the car, where the alternator belt adjustment bolts sheared, actually on the island itself, which wasn't ideal for the week we were up there. But I managed to get that fixed. That was only £60 at a local garage on the Isle of Mull, and got me back on the road, which was absolutely great. And then what else have I done? Well, we went through floods and we went through snow and into the fields in the deepest, darkest winter month, and I think in January it was. I did a video about what these trucks are like on road tyres, so not all-terrain tyres but road tyres, what these trucks are actually like off-road in standing water, in snow, in ice. And again, I'll put another link to the video up there for that as well. And it's done lots of towing as well, and everything really that you do as a family car. Let me just quickly spin the truck round here. Faults in the 12 months then. So I had the sheared bolt from the tensioner for the alternator belt, and then the other issue was I had a squeaking from the offside rear wheel hub, and that ended up being a caliper, a seized caliper. Got a new caliper, got that changed. That was a couple of £100, and then it went in for its MOT in about March time, and straight through the MOT. Absolutely fantastic news for that, and that shows you probably the condition of this particular one. I do feel that when 4x4s in particular get to that sort of 15-year age slot that this is in now, 16 years, 2005 this, you've got to really be cautious about underneath these cars, because if they have led hard lives, off-road in particular, they can suffer for some lots of rust and corrosion. So please, if you're looking at buying one of these, get under the car and have a really good look underneath. Well, I've just come off the really broken, rough forest tracks, so hopefully the camera will be a bit less bouncy now and you'll be able to see a picture of me a little bit easier. But so we're on the black tarmac stuff now, fortunately. And just talk about what are some of the negatives with the car that I've really sort of found over the last 12 months. Well, I think first of all it's the engine. This is the 2.5 turbo diesel. It's noisy. It's noisy and it's slow, and there's no two ways about that. And it's not because I'm comparing them to 300 brake horsepower sports cars. I'm comparing it to my previous Mitsubishi Pajero 2.8, which was off the full fat 4x4, much more refined, pulled much better. This is definitely more agricultural. It feels like a commercial truck, because that's actually essentially what it is anyway. And so it is quite noisy and it is quite slow. So don't expect this to set the world on fire with acceleration. It's not. And fuel consumption, which you thought would actually benefit from that, doesn't either really. I get somewhere in the 20s mpg. On the long trip to the Isle of Mull, which was motorway, sat 65. I got 26, 27. That's the best I've got out of this. So you're not going to get great MPG either. It's adequate, and that's all. It's not that big. So there are estate cars that are much bigger. There are 4x4s that are much bigger. So in here, it's like a miniature 4x4, and that's what the Shogun Sport was. Everything was a little bit shrunk wrapped and a little bit smaller than the full fat Shoguns. So don't expect very much space. However, that smaller dimension, I do think it rides well off-road. But again, this runs on the large 18-inch alloys, which does affect the ride. The ride can be on the sporty side, and on rough tarmac, abrasive tarmac, it is quite harsh. It does fidget the car at times as well. So again, just be aware that could be these larger 18 alloys on this particular model as well. So yeah, this is far from a perfect car, and you have to learn to drive to its strengths. So you might be thinking, I'm going through all these, well, the engine, it's noisy and it's slow and it's not very economical and it's quite small, it's got a fidgety ride. You must think I hate the car. Well, no, actually, I've got to like the car, and I've got to like the car in a way that, I don't know, as a child I used to have a Tonka toys in the garden, in the mud, and play with those many years ago, and it's almost like one of those toys. I used and abused those Tonka toys in the garden. They were covered in mud, they were left out in all weathers, but you know what? I played with them all the time, and it's a bit like the Shogun Sport. It gets used, it gets abused, but you know what? And it's far from perfect, it's far from clean, it's far from tidy, and there's got lots of little niggles with it. But in a Tonka toy type of way, you just feel it's built as indestructible. I've had those 2 minor niggles with the car in 12 months. Other than that, it's covered 5,000 miles. It's not been serviced yet. It starts every time. And do you know what? I almost guarantee that it'll start tomorrow and the next day. More so than any of my other sports cars. So that sort of speaks volumes for it. And for me, it's that dependency. It's that assurance that I know it'll give its best all the time. And I have to say, because I use this off the road, and whether it's on tracks or in fields, it's a very, very accomplished car. So much so that I've never fitted even all-terrain tyres on it, because I've never felt the need to. Because it handles the terrain so well. And it was only that one particular hill in the snow in January that it struggled to get up. Other than that, it's always had traction on road tyres. So its off-road capabilities for me are fantastic. So what's my summary of the car? Well, it has got some annoying features. Some of them may be mitigated if you go for the petrol, the V6 petrol, rather than 2.5 litre turbo diesel, and that's around the engine noise and around the performance. MPG is not great, and I think the petrol returns something similar in the 20s as well. So that's certainly an option. And the whole driving, the large 18-inch alloys do cause the surface to be a little bit abrasive at times. The chassis just struggles to cope with and the suspension just seems to struggles sometimes to cope with, I think, the ride, and he's trying to get that balance between sportiness and off-road capability, and on some surfaces it doesn't quite work. But there's a few things that I think it does really, really well, and I think one, as a dependable car that is reliable, that will just do anything that you throw at it. I think the Shogun Sport over this last 12 months has done everything that I've asked of it, and more. Long 1,000-mile round trips to the Isle of Mull, going through flooded and snowy ice-covered fields and forest tracks most weeks, with dogs, horse feed, rubbish, towing, everything it's chucked at it, it's done it. It might not have been done particularly fast, it might have not been very refined, but it still does it. And that goes on to the second point about the reliability and the cost of ownership. This car has cost me the cost of an MOT, £200 for a sticky brake caliper and £60 for the sheared bolt. So all in all, about £300 in total for the year's driving of a 16-year-old 4x4. I think that's terrific value, and by far the cheapest of all my cars. And I think that reliability and that cost of ownership, if that stays like it is, I can just forgive some of its negatives. Because it's just like that Tonka toy in the garden that I used to play with as a little child, that I used and I abused, but it was always there whenever I wanted it. And I just feel like the Shogun Sport's the same. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, please subscribe, and stay tuned, because there'll be another video coming up really, really soon.